For everyone who is watching, this is Lauren. I think I met you, it would have been like 2016. I think I met you. So it was quite a long time ago. And I wanted to have a chat with Lauren today all about a different aspect on health. You know, I love health and how I look into different realms and things of health. But Lauren is what I know of Lauren, and I'm sure you can, tell me in your own words, but Lauren is an intuitive and she has the ability to connect into different realms and planes of consciousness. She has access to, I believe, ancient knowledge and wisdom as well. And more than any of that, what I think Lauren excels at is she's an amazing mentor. And she gives people permission to access their intuitive knowledge. She helps them understand how to read their own energy and access that higher planes of consciousness through what they're feeling internally and how to read it externally as well. So is that fair enough to say that that's kind of what
You
you
did
do?
a really beautiful job.
Yeah. And I think I've followed you for so long and have connected with you for so long because you have given us permission or given me permission to kind of step into this world. I mean, I stepped into it in 2016, but I would say what I love about you is, this is funny, but you're not icky.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me too.
Yeah, because I'm very scientific. I like to pull all different facts and figures together. I'm also very spiritual. I have that understanding as well, but not in an icky way. I
Mm,
like I don't like the fluff. I like the to
mm.
get to the point.
Yeah, I what would I say to that? I've always had an interest in biology. And I'm not actually very trained at all in anatomy, let's say, but those areas in regards to science and physiology in the work that I do now, um, they overlap with our spiritual, energetic soul nature. Like it's direct correlation. And so for me, it's where we could say like science and spirituality meet. And I think increasingly as we move into the future, um, we're going to continue to find science marrying with spirituality, of which we've always known, but there can be the evidential proof of it. Mm.
And that's
And
kind
so then in regards to ickiness, I'm kind of like, well, like I'm just observing and noticing things here, right? So I'm just going to say it in this way that I'm like, this is interesting, take it or leave it kind of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's kind of where I wanted to start with my questions is I guess in my line of work, I've always gravitated towards helping the human home, this thing, and at almost assessing the human home on such a deep level that is functionally, like the functionality of the human being, the integral part of the structural integrity of the human being, the neurology and the emotional home of the human being. And I guess over all of the jobs and my many, many hours of assessing, human beings in that way, I've always read energy, or I mean, you probably read energy totally different to how I read energy, but I can kind of sense when a human body's energy is almost stuck or
Mhm,
feels kind of
mhm,
dense or
mhm,
compacted in a
mhm,
way.
mhm,
And what I do notice is when I do read into someone's energy not flowing well and it does feel kind of stagnant, is
mhm,
that all of their functionality is not processing and moving well either. So if someone's energy is stuck, their lymphatic system feels quite static and it's not
mhm,
flowing well. Their brain, their wiring and firing, their moods, their emotional,
mhm,
home
mhm,
is kind of dense
mhm,
as well. And
mhm,
their circulation doesn't flow well. They're structural as well. They're tight, tense. They constantly feel pain and, tension in the bones and bodies as well. And I just can't help but think it's got to have something to do with that that energy that I'm feeling that is stuck inside. And it's hard to explain that to someone because I can't go and say your energy is stuck. That's what's
Mhm,
causing all your illness because they're going to look at me and say, well, I'm alive, I'm flowing, I'm circulating clearly, my blood's pumping, my heart's moving.
mhm,
But I want your take on that kind of energy that I'm reading into the human body being so compacted in some people. And does that cause people to be unwell and unhealthy?
mhm. Oh, man. I think that you've summarized that actually so perfectly. And in so many ways, your question or overview is also your answer. Because you're like, yeah, like this is what I get sense and know is going on. Okay, where would I start? I hope this isn't too boring, but I think that the way that I'm going to explain it is basically to give an insight into my process of reading and almost like the two different perspectives I can see health from, um, but how they're connected, right? So if I'm going to tune into an individual, it's going to either be very clear within that energy field or their energy bodies. And so I will call this our energetic anatomy or our greater body. And for a person who might be new to that, it is that sense. Actually, I'll give you the a really kiddie example. When you're a kid and you played hide and seek, you either outstretched your energy really large in trying to find the people, right? You were combing and looking for energy, feeling where you were being guided, or if you were hiding, you're making your energy really small. All right. So that in itself is telling you that you've got something bigger or beyond, or that there is greater bodies than just your physical body. So as we go through the process and journey of our own life, we have our own experiences and we've got our own unique expression and unique information within our field that influences and informs our personality, our identity, what we're interested in, what we're naturally good at, what our lessons are. And as we transform and go through the course of our life and have challenges, hardships, all of those sorts of things, it will store in your energy field, and it can store in your energy field in a variety of different ways. And this is what we talk about when we say let's like processing our energy or even processing our emotions. We can know if we're going through a big time, we can feel it and we can feel that it's in our body, but we can feel that it's in our energy. We might become heavy, grow heavy, like we feel weighted down if we have not addressed very key things, or if we have um suppressed ourselves, suppressed our expression, um, grown fearful or grown more rigid or grown more controlling. All of that also is going to be influenced in our energy field. And our energy field is directly intersects very literally with our physical body, with our physical, very, very literally. And so that there is key communication all the time and conversation between our physical body and what goes on within it, with our energy field, as well as our energy field with our physical body. And so, yes, when you're talking about a person who may be stiff, or like you say, you can sense, and I love you're speaking my language when you say I can sense our lymphatic system, or I can sense their nervous system, or I can sense there is a stagnancy around this area of their body that seems beyond just a physical, say, tightness, that there's actually something else there, that there will be literally something else there, because what is happening within our field, our greater consciousness, impacts and informs literally the health and well-being and the flow of our physical body, and then also naturally vice versa. So if I was to have an accident and I damage myself very severely, um, and if I was to even just go, yeah, I'm laid up for a long time, like it's a very significant issue, that too will also be influencing how our consciousness is going to operate and reform or re-inform as well. Um, so sorry, I'm going to pause and go, get me back on track. um,
So yeah, when you are reading energy, like I said, I read energy and it feels kind of stagnant or stiff in some people's bodies, even though their blood's flowing and they're pumping and whatever, it still feels stagnant. And that could be, like you said, from suppressing our, self and holding on to past traumas or whatever it may be. What are you actually seeing when you're kind of looking at an energy and reading an energy from a human being? And can you also feel it contracted? And does that mean it's just like when you put a pebble in the water, is just a couple of ripples out, or does it, look totally different to how I kind of sense it?
okay, so I think the first point that I would make is I will read energy and information very unique and distinct to me. And that while there are and accurately portrayed diagrams of, say, our energy field, of our etheric body, of, the different layers of our body, um, it is always going to be unique to how I read or how an individual will read and receive that information. So when you are sensing that, you are sensing it appropriately and accurately to how you receive information. And it doesn't mean that yours is less or mine is better or vice versa. Okay, so I am primarily clairsentient. It's through feeling sensation, and then clairvoyance. So then it's through seeing. And it's never through seeing in a way that, like, we're looking at each other like this. It's more like a vision or a dream. So when you are envisioning something or when you are daydreaming about something and you can see in that way, that is how it is that I see when I'm seeing. And things will either appear like anatomically. So, and here, it will also depend on like what view perception I'm going to choose. So if I'm going to choose to view or perceive at a physical health body,
Yeah.
I'm going to tune to that mode or that radio station, let's say. If I'm going to tune to an overall energetic anatomy, so I can get a snapshot of many kind of layers overall, it kind of looks like messy, like you're looking at um not messy, but like when you're looking those space photos like of the Milky Way and there's like all these list dimension and layers, that will be then how I will read a person's energy. And then I'm looking at what is standing out the most or what wants to come forth and speak. So in any time I'm tuning into an individual, it's only really a drop in the information of who they are. And so then things will always follow a like a not like a timeline, like a piece of string. So if I'm tuning into something at a soul level, so this is really important, or they're going through a great big transformation, or that they're carrying something very significant that's now conglomerated into their field, I'm going to follow that through, and it will take me most likely to their psychology or their sort of mental attitudes, beliefs, those sorts of things. It will take me to their emotional realm and what they've made meaning out of, how they're feeling, what's still stored there. And then it may take me to their physical body and how that is manifesting. It doesn't always manifest in the physical body. That usually is the last place that anything actually manifests in. Every time, it's the last place. And so we can sense and know when something is off before. And this is when we get the hint, I'm going to course correct. I'm going to get more sleep, or I'm going to change my diet, or I'm going to stop, blah, 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 blah. We can sense something is off. And if we are then making that decision to course correct, you're going to notice, I've got to change my mental attitudes around this, or I have to work out why I believe these things that I believe. I have to change my feelings and emotions around this to then course correct health, right? And vitality, because it's not as simple as I'm going to change my diet or whatever it might be. Like it's never just as baseline operation function.
Yeah.
Your dog is so well behaved.
Sleeping in the background.
It'd be a riot if I had mine in here. Like,
Yeah, 2 beside me down here too.
oh, speaks to your calm energy.
That fascinates me that the physical body is the last place for the manifestation to come out, and it does make a lot of sense that that sensing that we do get when something happens, oh, I should change this or that, or, I should be doing something like this. A lot of the time, people ignore that and they bury it down. And is that what you're saying? That that's where the denser energy can kind of get now physical, and that's where it manifests into, tension, tightness, pain, immobility, cancer.
Sluggish thyroid, lymphatic system, blood system, like everything. It impacts everything. So the other way that I would do it would be I'm going to tune into a person and then I'm focusing on their physical body. And then I'm going to pick up, oh, there's something off here.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to tune into what is this? This is getting my attention. And it will provide me information and insight as to why that may be out of balance.
Yeah. Yeah. It just fascinates me because I guess there's no right or wrong. I'm never saying that when someone has a dense energy that they're unhealthy, but there are so many layers to health that I try and tell to people that what we think health is this day and age, where you're looking on social media and you're seeing someone, with a body that looks great and they're eating really healthy, is just scratching the surface of
Yes.
health. It is
Yeah.
not got anything to do with the vitality and radiance of a human being. And I guess when I look at someone who does to me feel radiant and vibrant in their being, it's got nothing to do with the physicality of that body. They just naturally flow well internally and externally. I don't know, I've
They've
always,
kept their spirit well.
yeah, yeah, their spirit's like,
They've kept their spirit well.
you can feel it like just shooting out of them almost.
Mhm.
Um, so it does change that health and wellness aspect to, I always say, more pillars, not just physical and mental, but spiritual, emotional, and that intuitive wellness as well. Because if you're not intuitively reading yourself and how you can pick up on what you're feeling inside, then it's very hard to change all of those aspects
Mhm.
physically on that
Mhm.
on that plane too.
Mhm.
And I almost look at someone who is radiant and who is expressing out so much further than their body, and it's almost like they are tapped into a smorgasbord of natural power that
Mhm.
is in our environment, and
Mhm.
that's kind of showing a mirror of their internal environment. So to me, health has a lot to do with our external environment
Mhm.
rather than actually what's happening in here. And what's your thoughts on that too, or am I off the mark there?
No, I don't think that you're off the mark. Um, Well, I mean, my brain is going straight to an extreme situation. So if I'm in a violent household, if my survival is significantly threatened in a variety of means, resources, like all sorts of things. If I was in a war zone, yes, of course, my external environment is dramatically impacting my ability to be well.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure. If I was to take a more balanced approach to say, for the most part, at least in the Western world, people are living relatively comfortably, and that's not a it it's a combination. So I am creating the environment and influencing the environment that I'm living within as much as then the environment I'm within is influencing me. I would say it probably more like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. What you're saying is, I think if I'm understanding your question correctly, I think that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you are reading into, I keep going back to the physical because that's obviously who I
Your
work
domain. Yeah.
physical.
Yeah.
You're on a little bit further out than the physical, but I deal with a lot of physical ailments and issues, and I always try and relate it back, like I said, to kind of an energy
Mhm.
topic as well. And it's hard because the people I work with don't really have that intuitive knowing or that spiritual connection yet. Some people absolutely do. It just depends where they're at.
Mhm.
And I kind of explain that, if, for example, if their lymphatic system is a little bit slow or sluggish, yes, it can mean that there's a lot of toxins in the body and things like that. But I also try and always relate it back to energy. And I'm like, think of your lymphatic or lymphatic system as static in the body, and like the static energy is kind of like not flowing well. And think of the lymph nodes as bags of toxins. So not only do you have sort of toxic waste in there, but how much baggage are you holding on
Mhm.
emotionally to keep those little toxins inside the body? And I think it kind of, they like go, oh yeah, I understand.
You're bang on, because the lymphatic system is very related to, or directly related to the emotional body, and then the astral body. Well, so the lower emotional, which is directly our emotions we feel and currently like engage in over the course of our life, and where we store memories and events of emotion that have been unprocessed in our lower emotional body, or just emotional body, which is in the lower astral of ourselves, directly the consciousness that we access all the time, as well as then in our astral field as well, which is at that heart level. And when a person has become very stagnant, so there are different things, like if we're naturally going through a period of transformation, or a death period, so we're coming to an end of completion of a particular cycle or expression in ourselves or in our life, then often a person's lymphatic system is going to naturally slow down, because they're sort of there's a slowing down process necessary to be able to kind of go, I'm reviewing, and is this right, and this, I've got to process all this stuff that is now about to become my past, essentially. And that can make person's energy field literally feel and be sort of moving or pulsating at a much slower rate. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's inappropriate for where they're at. It can be exactly where they're at, but it would also mean that I would highlight, you're going to possibly be experiencing these health sort of things you're going to notice, and you can support yourself by doing these health things like movement or lymphatic massage, as you say, as a means to assist in being able to process emotions. Same as, like stretching or chiropractics, all the different, areas. They get our consciousness and our energy moving. And so when we do physical things that care for us, it is supporting us energetically, as well as vice versa. The fact that we're having to process things, it's going to be influencing. I think that was one more thing that I wanted to say. Um, in regards to just health stuff, physical stuff, I also want to mention that there are things that people experience, let's say, physical limitations, or physical or health predispositions, or particular kinds of conditions themselves, or diseases that are actually purposeful for that soul's growth, and for that soul and what it wished to develop within themselves and learn. And I think we need to be careful not always to kind of go, you've got this, and that's because of that you're not processing whatever it is. I think that we are very specific in how the physical form in which we choose, and the physical hereditary and lineage that we come from very specifically as souls as well. And so anything that we physically choose and then may take on even from our genetics, let's say, can be really for us,
Mm.
um, rather than necessarily uh, against us. Yeah.
I see that a lot. And I try and, yeah, exactly, teach people that. And just an example, like, I've worked with a lady who's had vestibular issues. And to me, vestibular is your balance and equilibrium center in the body, but it's also you being off balance in many other areas of your life, which causes you to tilt and tip and feel off balance internally in that physical realm. And it was going on for so long, and I'm like, you've almost got to stop looking at it as something that's shit and just there and causing you the symptoms, and go, what is my lesson from it? So many people learn lessons from their illnesses and ailments and issues if they're willing to delve into, like you said, all of those pillars rather than just the symptom of what's happening.
Mm. Yeah.
Which,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there can be a lot of shame and guilt people can feel, or like you say, a lot of like, I've got to overcome this or fight this, which, like I think each of us need to individually assess and work out for ourselves, what is this for me? Rather than carrying a kind of potential stigma that there's something wrong, when perhaps there may not be.
yeah. So what I guess you were talking about the lymphatic system, that has obviously got to have a direct correlation to the blood, because
Mm.
lymph and blood work on the same conveyor belt. Basically, they do the same thing. So is blood also a, like you said, a lower emotional issue as well, or is there something different with blood?
Um, I would possibly be as bold to say that blood um, communicates or infuses our physical body with the entirety of our expression.
Ooh.
So not just our emotion, including then our like divine spark, um, or that, whatever language a person wants to use to it, the Christ consciousness, that we can access through ourselves, that divine essence, or that universal spirit. It communicates that. It communicates our unique like energy signature, a soul signature, spiritual signature. It communicates our like health and well-being in regards to emotions. So again, people's blood becomes very sluggish and very slow and thick. It can feel very thick. It's not then communicating information well to blood cells and then to the rest of the body um, when we are burdened, I suppose, and we have potentially degraded ourselves or degenerated our life force, our light, our expression, our well-being over the course of our life, which I'm not making wrong, is just, sometimes, but it will also communicate the opposite. And when again, we're going through periods of healing or change, transformation, we're going to experience the slowing down of blood as well as then like the quickening, very fast, light, and literally like light. So like pulsating, free flowing, not sluggish, not kind of coagulated and thick, but very light. That shifts in relationship to how we're also shifting as well. Yeah.
With the blood and the lymph and the cells, I mean, they all work and communicate together. Nothing in the body, works on its own. So we would have to have tools, like I say, rather than just the exercise and the eating well. There are so many other, there's a smorgasbord of things out there that we can also do to help with our health and well-being. And they say, if you've got sluggish, slow blood, one thing you can do is ground yourself on the earth, which will help, detoxification and help cell perfusion and help our lymphatic drainage and things like that, which will help the blood purify and become a little bit faster and flow better. So, is it safe to say that nature has a massive impact? I always tell people this. Nature has a massive impact on our internal environment, so much so that the more nature and natural power sources, like I said, you can get out there, sun, water, earth, even connection, to me, like connection to something, yes, greater connection internally to yourself, understanding and knowing yourself, but having a beautiful connection to something bigger out there. And that could be anything. That could be your garden. It could be, the ocean. It could be a community. It could be something that's just greater that you're connecting to also. And would these things have, yeah, a massive impact on how that energy flows through the body and how we can become a little bit more healthier through that energy?
100%. So yeah, like, I mean, I think we know this, like, we this is
This is where I find so strange because a lot of people know this, but a lot of people don't know this. They just
mm,
don't know that to go outside and sit in the sun is important. And that's where I find I'm like, what? But they're just,
mm,
it's hard to explain to some people who don't understand that.
mm. Um, yeah, that's interesting. And it just makes me want to have a lot of questions or curiosities, because the only thing that I could think of that would be there would have to be a level of disconnection or uncultivated connection with themselves. So either or, they've become so disconnected that they've forgotten, or they've never had an opportunity over the course of their lives to properly feel safe to connect and understand their relationship to themselves and the world. But our etheric body is
By
really
etheric, what do you say? What do you mean by etheric body?
so one of our very first energy body, if we were to do it in layers,
Enough.
it sits just off the very edge, and you can often, if you're like sort of relaxed and you're tuning into a person or just relaxed, sort of staring into space, sometimes you can notice that there is this little glow just on the outside of the rim of a person's body. That's the etheric body. But it doesn't just sit on the outside. This is what we've really got to get. This is our whole physical body is built off the etheric body.
Wow.
And yeah, yeah, our whole physical body. So it's like this very fast pulsating, like electrical light, and oh, like I wish I had a diagram. You can just look it up, the etheric body. And this is where we process our life force energy through, or the chi, right? And so our organs are built, the physical, nothing, we cannot have anything physical unless it can be built off an energetic framework.
Yeah.
It's not as though we've got the physical and then we've got these things attached. It's the opposite. Our physicality is the very last thing to like form, if that makes sense. Or yeah. And so the etheric body is firstly plants, or the plant kingdom has a physical body and an etheric body, right? And the animal kingdom has a physical body, an etheric body, and an astral body. Now, why this is important is because why do we get so much benefit from nature? Or why can we feel into an animal and feel and sense their spirit, right? Humans have a physical body, an etheric body, an astral body, and a spirit, or an I. They are higher, yeah. And so this means that we're all comrades, and it means that I can communicate and receive support and energy off the plant kingdom because we have a shared body, and off the animal kingdom because we have shared bodies, right? And then, of course, if we were to go out to Earth or then out to our solar system, we can go there. But focusing on what it is that you're saying, this is why we receive direct benefit from nature and why it is supporting us. When we go out in nature, we are literally having an energetic exchange. It is when we can feel very heavy or very depressed or very confused or agitated, and we can go for a walk, and sure, the movement is going to help. But if you're going like that feeling after you've gone for a bushwalk or a rainforest walk or a swim in the ocean or something like that, like it's very distinct. You come out of that very distinctly different. If you are feeling dysregulated and you're going to go out and you're going to sit on the ground, as you say, or sit outside, and consciously go, okay, hang on, I'm really, dysregulated. I'm just going to sit here. You're influencing your energy and your nervous system for sure, but you're being supported also energetically because of our shared bodies, I suppose, if you put it like that. So yeah, going back to, yeah, like it's not, we could think of ourselves as tiny little individuals, although very important, also functioning within a greater organism or a greater body,
Yeah.
really. And we see ourselves as separate, or like I'm then separate from animal kingdom or plant kingdom, or, or the heavens, the holy kingdom, but we're not really, we're in continual, like, that's our body too. It's probably the way that I would say it as well. Yeah.
And do you think we've been taught to disconnect from that because it is such a powerful thing to learn and understand? So maybe not intentionally, but through technology and through, the way we live inside our homes and going to work in fluorescent lights and just being kind of trapped internally in this world that's not conductive to health and wellness, therefore means we also disconnect from the things that are actually going to make us healthier faster, which is not necessarily the movement and the food, but the connection to things like that, to earth, to sun, to water, air, to light, to
Mm,
that massive amount of energy that you can tap into outside rather than the smaller amount of energy and things that you're tapping into inside.
mm, mm. Um, I'll give a big answer, but it feels like it's the most appropriate or correct. Um, we go through great cycles, great, massive, huge cycles of consciousness or of time and the evolution of consciousness. And we have and are slowly coming out of a denser period of time, which has lasted many thousands of years. And we could see this. So if we look back to ancient India or ancient Egypt, we can see that they had a spiritual awareness that was perhaps greater and more understood and embodied and incorporated into their lives to what we do now currently. And we can go, well, we've got all this advancements in terms of technology and in terms of industrialization and things like that, and sort of feel curious and interested in these philosophies, but also not quite like what, and don't understand what we're seeing is basically going through a denser period of time. And we could go back further as well than India, back further when we had a very different consciousness again, right? So has it been intentionally or maybe not prioritized, so either intentionally taken, hidden from us, or not prioritized? I would say it's more reflective of where we are naturally at. If we've got an arc like this, here is higher consciousness, we've been down here and we're going to start to come slowly up here, right? and that is influencing all of us, humanity's consciousness. And so therefore, if we're down here, right, we've got this latent in us. This is why we can look back and feel these resonance. I know this, but we're looking for proof here and we're like, I can't really quite see it. But in time, we will come back up and it will be different, but mirrored, more evolved even again. So what we evolve, like each time, even us, each individually go through a lot of hardship or density, we come out eventually the other side when we reach out, having had wisdom, having had more knowledge, and perhaps something that we learned here, now that we're over here, is even more understood or embodied or integrated. So at a great scale, that's why this isn't necessarily common knowledge or embodied knowledge because of where we're at. However, and again, why it's important to have these conversations, simply for those that are resonant or ready to feel the resonance of it, it's like connecting you to something that you already know. I've always felt that. I've always known that. It's reawakening, re-inspiring, and then going to inform you to do something, different. But you're right in everything that you say. It's an evolutionary thing.
So could you give people from your field of work some tips or tricks to help them? Obviously, I can help people physically through my work, which I find difficult because I always say emotion and physical work on the same conveyor belt in the brain. So like you said it earlier, if we have something like anxiety or depression and we just don't have the motivation to exercise or move, you're not going to target those areas in the brain that's going to give you the motivation to feel better. So you're actually going to stay in more of a slum because it works on that seesaw. But if you start activating, moving the body, moving the energy, moving the flow physically, then you're going to feel better emotionally because it's targeting the same areas in the brain. So obviously, coming from my aspect of work, that's what I teach people of how they can do it on a physical plane, which I also think is really cool that you were saying the etherical body makes our entire physical body, because it just gives me even more appreciation that there's this energetic thing out there that wanted to create me and how I sound and look and
Totally. Well, you did as a soul, as a spirit, you did. You
it's
knew exactly how you needed to come, and you chose the most suitable and ideal expression of you in your entirety. Like our etheric body is like literally the structure of our bodies. So our bones, our blood, like our organs, and our astral body. Each organ has its astral expression, and why you can look up those books that'll be like, kidneys represent this and hold these emotions or energies, or is processing this quality of energy, and when people are, lungs have specific health conditions or think, and it will have a correlating emotional,
yeah.
that's right, component, kidneys, liver, all of those things. Yeah, you're talking about the astral expression, and it's here because it's, um and I think that your suggestions around like movement in support of a person who might be suffering anxiety or depression are really on point. It like exactly as you say it. What I would say, both personally in my experience of both depression and anxiety, as well as reading it in other people's energy, sometimes it's actually just really challenging depending on where a person is at for them to get up and move. And, it's like I want to, I know that I want to. And, but for whatever reason, I'm just so frozen or so heavy. And so I'm stuck. So often my suggestions are around what I would say, if a person is in good health or is just, you know, relatively balanced, um, you want to keep, like I say, your spirit or your greater beingness well. So you're going to go, how am I needing to take care of my physical body, my emotional aspects from my emotional body, my mind, my mental body, or my soul and my spirit, right? So you can say these are sort of the four elements of what make me up. And when a person is, again, when you're going through a change in your life, a change within yourself, what you're going to need going forward is going to be different to what you have needed. And so now it's like, all right, if I'm feeling into how am I needing to take care of my body? And if you're coming from the intellect or the mind or the logic, you're only going to get a level of analysis and rationale. What we want to do is you've got to feel, I've got to feel, what does my body need right now? And be in direct dialogue through that sensation and feeling. Sometimes you have to keep that, you know, especially if it's foreign or you haven't done it in a long time, you can't expect to ask and then get an answer instantly. You can, oftentimes it will be there, but if you don't get an instant answer, that's okay. Just keep that communication pathway open, and answer will come,
To
right?
literally talk to yourselves and self. Self.
Yeah. So yeah, and my physical body, it's like I'm oh gosh, I was inspired few years ago to do Muay Thai boxing, and not just in a group. Like I had one-on-one sessions twice a week, and there was a point where I was like, I think I want to fight. I
Love
want
it.
to
This is
I
cool.
know. I loved it. I loved it, right? And so, oh my goodness, it was so on point for that phase and that period of time of growth for me. And it released massive things within my body, my emotional body, um, allowed me to recalibrate my thinking, my feeling, and therefore allowed more space for my spirit to come through, right? To guide me forward. Because if we've got all these like kinks and blocks in our emotional body and our mental body, then it's really tricky. How can I make more space for also what's wanting to come through? So when that phase is over, I started to go and I could feel, oh, this is not giving me what it was at one point before. I'm like, am I ready to finish up with this yet? No. Okay, it's there, it's supportive. It's like in a neutral, like it's still giving, but it's not taking, it's just sort of like
Yeah.
it's there. You're wanting to do that. So if you're in this change, or if you're really depressed and you're really anxious, you're going to feel into, how do I support my physical body? Maybe the answer is literally, it's all right, keep slothing, keep slothing. And the direction is something in my emotional body, or something in my mind, something in my soul, my spirit. It could be, I've got to start writing, or I'm directed to this material, reading material, or I'm needing to draw, or I'm needing to do something that we'll probably very easily dismiss because we see this as unimportant. We see it as having no value. We're seeing it as it being potentially wasteful. It's not necessarily productive if we're going to engage in something. But if we listen to what the first cue is, and we actually value ourselves or honor ourselves enough to do it, and that can require a bit of like internal cheerleading or discipline, or sometimes it's even that we are so accustomed to feeling terrible that it is confronting
Mm.
to do a little activity that can start to make us feel good, that now feels unfamiliar and unknown. And so our resistance isn't, yes, sorry, go.
Because we also stay in a pattern of familiarity because it feels safe as well. And the brain will do that to you too.
Our energy is in a pattern of familiarity. So it's not just our brain. Our brain is functioning a reflection to the energy that we're holding in our greater bodies. So I am conditioned to being in a certain kind of soup, you could say, in a certain kind, and this influences how I think, and this influences how I feel, and this influences, yeah. And so it's that resistance or discomfort to being in a different quality of energy in ourselves that's like sometimes what we can have resistance to. But yeah, if you can't get moving, and I would always recommend it, I'm always like, okay, if any person is going through a significant change, loss, growth, move your body, listen to how it is your body is wanting to move. Is it dance? Is it stretching? Is it like, it doesn't have to be this, pound the pavement kind of thing. But if it's really at a place where that's very challenging to move the body, it's get more curious as to where is there a little spark or a little seed of inspiration or prompt or of directive, and be curious enough in yourself, and believe in yourself enough, even if it's just this tiny little sand, like just be curious enough to go, I keep getting this little tink tink, this little thing, right? Like, what's it? Do it in private, do it in secret, tell nobody that you're doing it
Yeah,
if you have to, just you know
I love
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Full permission to lay in the sun every day like a lizard, because that's what I'm told to do every day.
It's so important, like the sun in terms of our conscious. Why has the sun been the center point of all religious or spiritual philosophies? The sun is the governing force for our solar system. It communicates new impulses to all the planets, including Earth, and yeah, also us. And so yeah, I could go through and list, right, it affects the etheric body, it affects the astral body, it's working on your blood, but not only that, what you're doing is directly absorbing greater consciousness, and you're going to be processing that unique to you, so really unique, specific to you, that will be then inspiring you. Yeah.
So, sort of rounding it up, yeah, your tools for people would be to just really intuitively listen to the guidance that is coming out and tapping on that shoulder and pushing you to that magazine or pushing you to listen to that song or whatever it is. How do we get someone at that level to not think that that's silly, but think, I really do have to listen more to what's coming out of my body, but also how I speak internally to my body, because there's that yin
Mm.
and yang, I guess, of both will influence each other massively. So, like you said, it is, um, listening. I think that was your biggest cue, is listening, but is there some other tools that we can do, like journaling, or what other things, getting in nature?
Oh, look,
Oh,
this, yeah, sorry, what was that?
getting into nature, is it's all those tools, but is there something more specific through the energy that we can, just like a little tip you can give someone to start listening deeper into what their body is trying to have that internal dialogue with them?
Like an energetic tip?
Yeah,
Or
just a Lauren tip. Whatever comes through that it will help someone connect deeper into all aspects and all pillars of their health, not just they have to go out for a walk every day and eat healthy, but they also have to work on so many other aspects of health to be radiant in all of the bodies that you talk about and all of the energy layers that we have. Is there a non-negotiable that you do or that you teach people to do to start
it's
connecting?
listening, because the act of listening requires you to get centered in your own energy and alignment. So you're going to get centered in yourself. You're going to move. If you're listening, you're not here, you're here. So you're influencing the way in which you are oriented in your consciousness, right? When you're listening, there is this state of stillness, a state of quietness you are cultivating. That can be very hard. Again, if you're very anxious or very depressed, you have to slowly step that down. And again, if you're in a very heightened state of anxiety or very dense state of depression, you can't expect yourself necessarily immediately to get into that quieter state. You've got to take that journey. So it's like, all right, if you've decided that that's what you're wanting to do, like to understand what you're going to need for yourself, it's then, okay, I'm way out here. I'm going to have to take this journey. And this is work. This is effort. This takes time. There is no other hard and fast way around it, because if you're out here and then you're going to stick on this activity and that activity, some of it no doubt is going to support, no doubt, but it could also be entirely not right for you or appropriate for you, you know? So like again, the like basic stuff, get enough sleep, get appropriate sleep. Yes, get outside. Ideally, these are things that if you're way out here are naturally gonna help. But ultimately, that active listening, when I say that, is you are working with your entire field. If I'm going to, when you are working with one of your clients, right? You are literally will be in an altered state, a slightly altered state, when you're receiving and feeling that sense of this feels off or that feels sluggish, right? When we are tuning into ourselves in that way, we are consciously or intentionally altering our state slightly to be in more communication or more harmony within ourselves, to be able to receive the then appropriate directives around physical health, emotional health, mental health, or lifestyle, movement, those things. So yeah, it's like I could say XYZ, do these things, but that's very prescription when it could be very nuanced for an individual.
And it makes sense because I probably won't listen as deeply if I'm trying to meditate as I will listen more deeply if I'm walking in nature. So
That's
you
right.
have to find what resonates with you and what lights you up. And the thing that lights you up is where you're going to listen. Is that what you're saying?
Totally, totally. The thing that lights you up, I would also say, pay attention to your energy or what you're thinking when you were doing mundane tasks,
Mm.
vacuuming the floor, cleaning, doing the dishes, these sorts of things. You can start to get a greater insight in terms of the quality of self-talk or the stories you're playing over or the quality of your energy. Um, if you're wanting more direct insight into what's going to be good for you, you've set that intention. So for a person, I guess I'm assuming people who come to you, they're like, I've got this health issue, or I've got this physical issue, or I'm really wanting to promote this in myself. That's their intention. That's their seed. Perfect. So then you just want to keep attuning to what that is and be in the state of listening. Here is what's going to support it. Does that make sense? If I've got no intention or no clarity, then I'm just going to be in my own jumble all the time. But yeah, that sometimes mundane tasks, rhythmic tasks, weeding, mowing the lawn, like things that you might do that are put you into a hum, a slight alternate state that
But
then
undistracted too. So without the podcast or without the music, like try and just be there with you and the mumble and jumble that comes out.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah, without the distraction, definitely. Or it's too much consuming. This is when we're listening with it is the distraction, but we're now
oh,
putting all of that in our energy, and then we're having to sift that away. It's like, here's a desk and I've piled it with books.
yeah,
And then I'm looking for that thing, but it's underneath all the stuff I've put in it. When we take in too much energy, we don't know what's going on in ourselves because it's smothered.
I love it. Because if I, could tell people a little bit about my journey of like 2016, and I think I first met you then, and here's me talking to myself and going, okay, I'm going to try and settle myself. And words would come in. I'm like, yeah, but I think I'm just saying those words. And I just like over, and like you said, it's a journey. So that was 2016 to now. I'm just like, oh no, that's my inner voice.
Mm.
That I trust that, and I
You've
know
developed trust in that. And it
it's
takes that time. Like
it really,
it's a relationship.
yeah.
And
So
there's stigmas attached. You would have had to have pinned yourself from these collective stigmas and beliefs that you would have been hooked into that prevented or made you feel
yeah, yeah, like I'm crazy for talking to
"Oh."
myself being outside, and now I'm just like, ah, you see me talking to a tree, I don't care. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. I just love, as I said, just bringing in so many different perspectives to health, because it's bigger than we can imagine. The word health and wellness has got so many layers to it. Like the body has so many layers to it, so does health. And we're just looking at one aspect of things. When people are like, I want to get this or this, I'm like, yeah, you got to look at everything. And so I'm so glad you came in and gave your perspective on the energy and, your.
Thank you for
So how
inviting me.
can they get readings from you? Can they find you? Can they
I
do work?
can. I wanted to say something. You just said something really key, and it's just, oh, damn it, it's gone. And I was like, oh, you just nailed something again. Oh, this is what I was going to say is, um, I think to an extent with all the science and information out there around health, it can at times make us feel as though that we don't know.
Mm, mm,
And that while of course, like I am no doctor, I don't know the in-depth level of knowledge that you do on, say, the physical body, but I do believe that I know how to keep myself well. And I think everybody actually knows how to keep themselves well. And yeah, yeah,
they're
just
distracting or just haven't learnt to, like you said, listen and have that internal dialogue.
yeah, or don't believe that you don't know how to keep yourself well and somebody or something outside of you knows
Yeah,
more than you. That's
100.
what I'm trying to say, is that no, you know really well. And
Yeah.
you can then employ the services, the information of those that have fully studied that to support whatever it is that you already know.
And that's why I also think it is important to who you are externally asking for support, and make sure when you do ask for external support after you see them or they've treated you or whatever, you should feel really good,
Mm.
really, expanded, really happy and well, rather than ugh, lower and
Mm.
more,
Mhm.
dense
Mhm.
than you did
Mhm.
after
Mhm.
seeing them. That's a
Mhm.
massive one too.
Mhm.
Yeah. So if someone wants to see you, where do they go?
Oh.
I've
In a
had a few readings from you. They're amazing.
Thank you, honey. Innerhue, INNERHUE.com. Yeah, we can do a reading.
Yeah, I highly suggest it. And if you've never had one, you might be pleasantly surprised, because you aren't fluffy. You are, you do have that beautiful, balance between it all. So maybe, yeah, Lauren is the one for you if you've never done it before. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And thank you
Well,
for your
thank you
time.
for today. Yeah, thank you for today.
Beautiful. Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you.